Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today, it's a beautiful day. And before we get started, there are times that I'll always, sometimes we have new folks joining the channel or watching us. So it is my honor to welcome my friend and brother, Gustav Biaccio. This guy, he is a legend. Gustav is a respected speaker. He's an investor, a legacy architect whose life demonstrates that financial setbacks do not define your future. After overcoming bankruptcy, foreclosure, career transition, and major financial challenges, he rebuilt his life through disciplined investing, strategic ownership, and continuous learning. Today, he is passionate about helping professionals, entrepreneurs, and family, especially first and second generation immigrants, build lasting, multiple generational wealth. His mission is simple to help people create, grow, protect, and pass wealth that impacts generation. If you've ever wondered how to recover from financial setback, Gustav B. Achu is your friend. He built from scratch and he amassed enormous wealth that he doesn't really care about wealth, but he cares about his purpose and giving back to the community. Please join me in giving a warm, I know, welcome to my friend, my brother, and my mentor, Gustav B. Achu. My brother, how are you doing?
Hey, Dr. Edimo, I feel blessed today. What an awesome day to be alive, man. As you were out there just talking about doing your intro, talking about, just getting me on, and I started thinking to myself, yes, I know it's been a year. We celebrated our first anniversary on those podcasts last week, but every day just really seems like a new experience, right? And every day when we're preparing for this, I feel excited. I feel like, boy, we have another opportunity to go out and change some lives. Because there's a wonderful story I read many years ago of this old guy who was a fisherman in a very small village.
Right.
And one time he came out fishing as he usually does in the morning, but the night before there had been a massive storm. And because of that storm, the water had washed off some sea creatures off on the shore who had no business being on the shore. And so the fisherman came in the morning, he couldn't go through his net, and he started looking and he saw all the small sea creatures on the shore. And there are there are creatures that he didn't need because he usually fishes for grown fish. And he saw all of them and he felt bad for them. And he started picking them and throwing them back into the ocean, into the sea. And a young man was jogging by that morning and he saw him and he laughed and he said, "Oh man, what are you doing?" He said, "Listen, you see, all these creatures have been washed off the ocean. They will die if we leave them on the shore. Can you help
Mhm.
me? Let's put them back in the sea." And the young man said, "No, but I understand, but it's just thousands of them. It's not going to make a difference anyways. Why don't you go about your day?" And the old man looked at the young man, bent over, picked one of the creatures, threw it in the sea, and said, "Yes, it might not make a difference for all of them, but it will make a difference for this one." So
Wow.
every time you and me are on the line, Dr. Edimo, we might not change the world, but we might change one person's perspective about life. We might change one person's perspective about investing. We might change one person's perspective about throwing in the towel when darkness comes without remembering that there's going to be light tomorrow. So, man, the joy, honor, and pleasure is always mine being with you.
Oh man, that is powerful. That is powerful. It's about the other day, right? I was asking my wife. I was like, "There's a story in the Bible, right? They said Jesus left 99 and go look for one."
Yes.
Sometimes, you know what I asked my wife? I said, "Jesus was kind of dumb. How can you leave 99 to go look for one?" Right?
Correct.
So it comes back to what you just said, right? That we worry too much about the entire masses, right? The main thing is to worry for one. If we can
That's
just
right.
put one, if one person can be here and listen to us, like Christy Peters that's currently listening, we have other folks online that are currently listening. If we can just touch one person with what we are
Mm,
sharing, then we have made an impact and our work is complete.
absolutely.
Today, we're going to be talking about some really touching things that are happening in the world. You see, in the world, we are living in very extraordinary times. We are
True.
living in times where folks don't understand where their next paycheck is going to come from. Folks have been unemployed for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Folks are underemployed. You have folks with university degrees, master's degrees. They are driving Uber. Folks have been displaced. They have their houses have been foreclosed on, and there is no hope. You know, but at the same time, before we even get into talking about money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today I watched this guy, and he was a U.S. senator, has everything going for him. Just from the blink of an eye, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He has a couple months to die. This guy went online with on a podcast with Jake Tamper from CNN. He said one of his biggest regrets was the time he didn't spend with his family, his wife, and his kids. All the time he went out there chasing for money, chasing for power, trying to make this world, feeling that he's acting to make this world a better place. But it comes back to how many times do we ask ourselves, are we living our purpose? Are we just in the rat race of chasing money and making sure that we live a lifestyle or portray a kind of lifestyle just to be fitting to those that are watching us on internet? Or we are living a life that tomorrow, if we are in that guy's position and they ask them what is the biggest regret, it wouldn't be the time that you spent away from your family or from your kids. It wouldn't be the time that you knew what your purpose was, but you didn't pursue that purpose to give in your best. What do you have to say, and what can you incorporate or add into this with respect to this overall topic? I totally understand before we even get into the meat and gravy of
Mm-hmm.
the topic, but what do you feel about just what I just said before we get into
First of all, Dr. Jimo, it's all about life, right? Our number one goal is we're talking to human beings. And the things that drive human beings is not only financial. The human spirit starts being driven, first of all, from the complete clarity on what it is that you're brought on this earth to deliver. I think, in a way, it's a very bittersweet situation. Bittersweet because, on one side, he is aware that he's getting towards the end of his life. Many people are not fortunate to be able to know that. We know that we're going to die at some point because nobody is going to get out of here alive. But very few people really have a way to have a kind of a timer on them, right? In
yeah.
another sense too, it can be very depressing and very traumatic because my mother died of leukemia, and I remember when she was diagnosed with leukemia, it took a few months for her to wrap her head around that. And when I was helping her take her to the clinic for chemotherapy and stuff, it was a tough process. But in this case, I am happy that he even has the courage to talk about it the way he's talking about it, right? Especially because we live in a time today when all the images we see are images of greatness, are images of beauty, are images of strength, images of courage. And especially for a US senator, these are people who have power. These are people who have influence, right? These are people who have changed people's life positively and, in a very small instance, maybe negatively, sometimes unintentionally.
Yeah.
But to be able to have the courage to submit to the overarching acceptance that death is coming, number one. But number two, let me just share some perspective on how I appreciate life and some of the things that I regret, right? And for him to talk about the fact that he looked back at his life and recognized that maybe he could have spent a little bit more time with his children and his family. That is the number one regret. I forget this lady's name. She wrote a book after 20 years of research as a hospice nurse in Australia. That also was the number one regret. At the same time, too, there is no use for purpose if you can't go out there and execute on it. So
Yeah.
there's a fine line to balance between that sacrifice, which might take you away from your family to pursue purpose, to work on something, to earn a living, and also still being available to them. I think the key thing, especially when I listen to what you just narrated and what, just the circumstances of the senator's situation, I think the key thing is to be intentional about everything and to also understand the ramifications of both. Because at the same time, you and me know too, especially as a father, you sit home, you don't go out there to try to get a living. Soon and very soon, you will be you will be you will be considered a persona non grata, right? But
Yeah,
I'm glad that he was able to have the courage to share some of those things with us because life is a learning journey.
absolutely, absolutely. Recently, there was a widely spread story about a Nigerian man who reportedly died after years of working tirelessly to build his dream home. Whether every detail of the story is accurate or not, it struck a nerve because it reflects a reality many people can relate to. Have we accidentally built a culture that celebrates people working themselves to exhaustion while overlooking the quiet power of ownership? How do we shift from living off our labor to living off our assets?
Yeah, Dr. Edimo, I'm glad you brought that up because I read that too on the internet. I think 1 or 2 days ago, and I felt really sad, right? Because that's the second time I am learning about something like that. The first one was in the year somewhere about 2006. I was working with another Nigerian young man in Minnesota at that time. We're working in a nursing home, and this guy used to work for a pool company, so he will work at the nursing home I worked at. He will work at other places. So he, even though the law says you cannot work more than 16 hours in a 24-hour day, but because he doesn't work in the same location, there was no way to track his hours. So this guy would work around the clock. A very nice guy. And I remember one day somebody came to work and just told us that he died at another nursing home, that he was sitting in the dining room feeding a patient, a resident, and just collapsed and died. And I'm sure there are many instances like that that have happened. Listen here. I think one of the things that everybody has to keep in mind, hard work is very honorable, but hard work alone is never going to help us go ahead or create freedom. The reason I say that is because we come from a culture where hard work is very recognized, and everywhere in the world it is. But we're
Mhm.
living now in a time when we must be able to understand that, like I say always, money on money will always deliver more for you than
True.
money on labor.
Yeah.
We have to understand something. Many immigrants inherit a very strong work ethic, but not necessarily an ownership mindset. You
Correct.
see, you talked about the fact whether the culture has pushed us to celebrate working hard or stretching ourselves or something like that. I think what the culture is doing to the modern times is that it is pushing people to believe that the only way you can be successful and content with your life, number one, is to be able to have things that are physically visible to people to indicate somehow that you are rich or you're successful,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
It
Mhm.
feels bad, especially because in this instance, we don't know all the details, but this person is living in America, is building this house in Nigeria. God alone knows when they are planning to go and live there. God alone even knows how long they are going to live in that property. God alone even knows whether while they are building that house, living in America, they even have a decent lifestyle here. Probably I've seen situations where people are building mansions but they're living in apartments here where they barely can even walk through the apartment because it's so small. The door opens and there's a cupboard behind the door. You cannot even feel free, right? So
True.
it's important to have perspective because there are only two ways to create wealth, guys. You're either selling your labor or you own productive assets that generate wealth for you. Those are the two
Correct.
ways. Are people chasing status assets, luxury stuff, instead of productive assets, businesses, stocks, rental properties, real estate properties? I believe a lot of people understand the difference, but many people are not implementing what it takes. And
Mm.
that's a conversation for another time, right?
Yeah.
It's important to understand that your income is not going to be wealth for you. Your income only becomes wealth when you are able to take that income and put it in a machine. And machine in this case is hypothetical, and put it in a machine that is able to duplicate that income from you. Because every time that income comes from your physical work, you are in for a single point of failure. In
Mm.
this case, my heart goes out to this young man, my heart goes out to his family, my heart goes out to all his loved ones because this is a terrible way to lose somebody, especially losing somebody who is doing something productive. Another thing is we have to pay attention to, especially as immigrants in America, is something I call the black tax. It doesn't only apply to immigrants in America, it applies to, it's part of our culture, right? When you grow up in life, you start becoming economically viable, you start earning an income. There are usually a lot of family members who rely on you and who expect that you should be able to look back and take care of your family.
Mhm.
And I want everybody listening to me to understand this and understand this very, very well. It is a good thing. The strength of our African culture, our immigrant community culture, is riding on the back of the great philosophy of Ubuntu, which says, "I am because you are," which is the sense of communal living. It is a good thing, but in that process, we must always prioritize our health, we must prioritize ourselves, and we must prioritize our ability to be able to stay healthy. The reason I say that is because when you are successful in the immigrant community, especially in the African immigrant community, the family is expecting from you. Your immediate family where you live is expecting from you. Your extended family in Africa is expecting for you. Your mother, your father, your aunts, all these different things. And then you also have expectations for yourself. Maybe you want to build a nice house, you want to buy a car, you want to fly business, all those things. The important thing to remember in that entire process is that you are the hen, hypothetically, that lays the golden eggs. If you are not able and you're not alive, there will be no golden eggs. Number
True.
one. Number two, and most importantly, if you die like this young man has passed on, right? All the people who you felt the pressure to take care of are not going to die.
They'll still survive.
They will still survive. The problems which felt like it was an emergency will still be solved. If it's not going to be solved by you, it will be solved by somebody else.
Correct.
So the black tax is one of those things, especially for African immigrants, we must be very conscious about. I call it conscious investment, which
Yeah.
means investing in each other consciously.
Seriously. Incredible. I want to give a shout out to Christy Peters, Bridget Unana, um, also here, who do we have? Patience Nana, Abim Florence, and please, if I missed your name, thank you guys for joining. Please leave your questions and share the live video. That's the only way that we can build a algorithm in this. Incredible, brother. It's sometimes we sit back and we believe that we still have a lot of time.
Correct.
We have all these plans ahead of us. We don't even think that the nearest year, you know.
Correct.
The other day I shared a story about this 19-year-old university second year student in university just doing Uber during the summer, and he passed away, you know.
Correct. I
uh,
remember that story.
yeah,
Yes.
so when I listen to some of these stories, right, it gives me goosebumps to make me understand that you might be going out with your car, you might not come back. You might be going to bed, you might not wake up.
Correct.
You might be sitting and watching TV, you might not wake up. So life is so fragile, and the way that we most of us gonna go, we won't even know when that
Correct.
happens. So that is one of the reasons we as human beings, we have to always try as much as possible within our realm, within our powers to be ready. And when I
Absolutely.
mean ready, not just in the Christian like of it, being ready for the people that you'll be working so hard for, being
Facts.
being ready for these people that you love, that you've been killing yourself doing 5 jobs or working 20-hour days. Because in our culture these days, especially men don't share a lot of stuff with their spouses. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they might have 7 banks account here, they might have 8 businesses here. All they do is just pay bills. The people that they sleep with every day, they don't even know what these folks are doing. Then guess what? Something happens to them. They can't really function anymore. And the wife or the husband, because both sides right now, the wife or the husband don't even know where to start. And that is why we see some of these businesses that we build. When the owner is not there, these businesses fail because
Correct.
there is no transition or succession plan that we create for any of our businesses. We might be in a business, our kid will tell us we want to bring our kids in. They say, oh, they're not interested in that. We take it as gospel. We are there every day, every night, every second, killing ourselves. The day you pass away, Gustav Diacho is gone. That is the all these things that you've been building. There is no succession plan on that. What do we have? What do you have to say, especially in the culture that we live these days, about building a succession plan and making sure that your significant other have a total understanding of what you're doing so that they shouldn't be left in some kind of a confused state when you're gone?
That's a good one. That's a very good one because I have a proprietary framework which I use to help teach people about uncovering their purpose, applying that to build wealth and to build a lasting legacy. And it's called the Compass Framework. And Compass, COMPASS, stands for a few things. C stands for clarity, right? Knowing what you want to where you're trying to go. O stands for the ownership mindset. M stands for multiplying your resources, being able to invest so that your resources make more money for you than you can make doing work. P stands for protection, protecting yourself with life insurance and all of that. A stands for acceleration. Once you're earning some money, how do you accelerate returns? How do you accelerate your earning, learning new skills, maybe getting a second job, driving Uber part-time, whatever it is. S, the first S stands for stewardship. Stewardship means understanding that the wealth we're building, the life we're living is not only about us. And the final S is what you're talking about, succession. What is your succession plan? How do you plan for things to move when you are no longer there? And a lot of times, like you said, people take this for granted. Everyone thinks they'll still have time. But we are living now in a world, especially in the culture where we come from. We have seen families completely annihilated because the patriarch or the matriarch, the head of the family, worked for 50 years, built a business, had investments, bought pieces of land, did all those things. Number one, they never took the time to legally protect those things. Number two, they never took the time to organize their families and explain to their family what the succession plan is before they died. And number three, they died off without even having anybody know exactly in detail what is existent. And usually what happens in those situations is that strangers are going to benefit from that work.
Absolutely.
I don't say that as a stranger to this. That is something that has happened in a lot of families where we come from, and it even happened in my own family with my own father. I am saying the consequences of the ability to not organize yourself and put things in perspective. So what you're saying, Dr. Edimo, in fact, this is a conversation for a whole podcast in itself, which we have to do, right? Because you are touching something very powerful. People go out, we work, we try to make money, we build businesses. What is the point to spend 30, 40 years of your life building a business, building something, and then there is no succession plan? If you look at the greatest businesses we have in the world today, very few of them is the first generation business.
Absolutely.
Most of them are third, fourth, fifth generation businesses. How were they able to build those businesses, right? I am thinking here like the Beretta Gun Company. They make Beretta guns.
Yeah.
They've existed for about 200 years. You know Beretta, right?
I own a Beretta.
Wonderful, wonderful, right? There is this ice cream parlor in Turkey, which is one of the oldest ice cream parlors in the world. I forget its name. It's been there for about 6 generations. So especially as Africans, as immigrants, especially, we come to different parts of the world, especially African immigrants living in America, which is a very organized place. The laws are strong. And we still act as if we are living in a lawless place.
Yeah.
The least thing anybody is supposed to do is to be able to have at least a trust, right? Even if you don't have a trust yet, but at least have a way you've started communicating your wishes to your spouse if you're married. If you're not married, to the person who you trust, it might be your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, but it's important to communicate those things. For example, my wife knows very clearly, should something happen to me, I want to be buried in Santa in Cameroon. It is clear. My children know that. My sisters know that. I have it legally put together. You understand? I have everything organized. Who has the authority to do what? Who has a right to what? It is important. You might be listening to me and you are thinking, oh, you don't have a lot. You know what? That little you have is a seed for your next generation to build into something mammoth.
Absolutely.
The biggest businesses we know started with one store. It started with one truck. It started with one plane. It started with one little corner grocery store. And today it is HEB.
True. I talked to a friend yesterday. He called me like 11 o'clock at night. He wanted to really say something, right? He explained to me about this friend of his. This guy is like in his 60s. He explained to me about this friend of his that had his kids here. Two of his kids were born here. One was born in Cameroon. The kid came when he was like 2 or 3 years old. But these kids, right now, one is a medical doctor, the other one is like a nurse. This guy have worked extremely hard over the past 30 years, 32 years that I've been in this country, built multiple homes, rental properties in Cameroon and stuff. He's going blind right now. He's on disability, you know. But guess what? The kids don't want this man to even come visit them. The kid doesn't want to talk to this man. They don't even talk to the wife. The wife didn't go that much didn't have that much of a formal education. So the daughter that's a medical doctor doesn't want to even align with the mother. So this guy is calling his friend, the guy that called me to explain that in this life you have to take care of yourself. And all these things that he has been building, he thought he was building for the kid. The kid doesn't care. He told him the other day that those are things that you have in Africa. If something happens to you, I'm not even going there. This is a kid talking to their parents this way. And this is a parent that have paid their school fees. They went to the island for medical school. This kid graduated with zero student loan. What taught me, or what that my friend, it's a big senior friend of mine, he was just trying to pass across the fact that we work so hard in this country to give a better life to our kids, to our family and stuff, but we neglect our own self. And but what I mean by neglect, we don't take care of our own selves. We don't sleep. We don't even go to the hospital once a year to check on how we're doing, right? We just keep going, going, going. It's like a car. If you keep driving a car and you don't take it to service every now and then, guess what? That car is going to leave you on the road, whether you like it or not.
It's a fact.
What do you have to say with respect to such a situation, or what experiences have you seen over time?
Dr. Dimo, I'll always start by saying, I'm a Christian man. I believe in the Holy Bible. And of course, I'm not imposing that on anybody, but anybody who believes, just follow with me. Even if you don't, but just follow this with me. We all know that a big part of Christian life is guided and centered around the 10 commandments in the Bible. But of those 10 commandments, there is only one commandment that gives a promise and a reward. And that commandment is the commandment that says, honor your father and your mother, and your days shall be made longer. Now, that commandment doesn't give any condition. It doesn't say honor your father and your mother because they were nice. Honor your father and your mother because they were loving. Honor your father and your mother because they were the best mother and father. No. It says, in spite of everything, there is no condition, unconditional instruction to humanity. Honor your father and your mother. And in exchange for that honor, the Lord Almighty says, I will bless you with longer days. Why do I bring this up, Dr. Edimo? Because what you just shared is becoming very commonplace in our times. And invariably, the people who suffer the most are fathers. That's the truth of the matter.
Fact.
And The reason why I think it is, there might certainly, we don't know the details of their family. I understand that. All I usually want people to understand is simple. I can never judge my parents, and I'll tell you why. Because the circumstances under which they made certain decisions, which I might perceive now as an adult as wrong, I am judging them when I'm not in those circumstances. I am not in the heat of that time. Dr. Timo, let's take an example. You sit here the last time we talked about, I think that day was your mother's anniversary, her birthday or anniversary.
Yeah, anniversary.
Right? Anniversary. You spoke about your mother. I started shedding tears here. And I asked myself, I said, there are a lot of things that you could look now because of what the world has educated you, how to raise children. You might feel like your mom ran short. She fell short. She should have done this. She should have done that. But you had the presence of mind and the gratitude of spirit to recognize that instead of her buying you a new pair of shoes, she takes the old one, puts a cardboard inside so you don't have to have your foot touching the ground, so she can make sure the other kids who are less privileged in the neighborhood can come and celebrate with you.
Correct.
For some children in this day, they will judge her and say, she should have prioritized me. She should have bought my shoe.
Yep.
That spirit of entitlement is what is making a lot of people today make absolute decisions like that. I am not saying parents know it all. Parents are not perfect. But I'm saying it is really difficult for me a lot of times to fathom circumstances where a child can completely and unequivocally cut off their parents.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for that justifiable reason. And I don't want to hear, I'm not despising anybody's trauma. I'm not despising anybody's pain. I'm not despising anybody's circumstance they were brought up with or some of the things they might have dealt with their life. All I'm saying is that give your parents grace. Because as parents today, all the things we are doing for our children, Dr. Edimo, we are doing it based on our own expectation and understanding of the fact that it's a good thing. We cannot control whether they will appreciate it 20 years from today that you made that kind of sacrifice for them.
True. That's a fact. That's a fact. You know what? Let's digress a little bit. You've always spoken about making money work for you. However, most Americans, most immigrants, most Americans pay for vacation with their next paycheck, a credit card, or a year of savings. But isn't that ultimate goal to reach a point where your investment pay for your vacation? How do you help someone making that transition? Follow up, making that transition.
I think that's a brilliant angle, Dr. Dimo, especially because we live in a time today where everything about most people's lives are being directed by what they see on social media. You see people riding in business class, you see people jumping on planes, going in and out. Sometimes people even, I have a friend of mine who put up some pictures the other day, and I told him, man, enjoy your time in France. He told me that was 2 years ago. But listen here, if he didn't tell me that, I'll never know. Somebody will be sitting there and thinking this guy is always on vacation, and now you're stressing yourself thinking you want to compete. Here is the deal, Dr. Dimo. And this is something a lot of people need to understand. First of all, statistically in America, 88% of people who go on vacation spend a part or the entire finance part or the entire vacation on credit cards.
Yep.
Some part of the vacation or the entire vacation on credit cards, right? Of course, that also takes into consideration. So it's not an absolute stat, but it just gives you a sense of how much people pay for an enjoyment now with their future earnings.
Correct.
So basically, the question you must be asking yourself, once I pay on that vacation with a credit card, it basically means that I enjoy for 2 days, but I pay for 19 years of paying the credit card off, or whatever number of years it's going to take to pay the card off with interest.
Yep.
right? So the important thing for anybody to understand, and we all are human. I've been down that route too. I've been down the route where going on vacation used to be working, trying to save money and go. But I always was asking myself the question, this is not a very sustainable model, because it means every time I have to go on vacation, I need to work a little harder, save up some money, and then maybe work for 1-2 years, save up some money, and then go spend it in 2 weeks. It didn't make sense to me, Dr. Edimo,
Yep.
because it means I need 2 years to enjoy 2 weeks. Right? So what everybody needs to understand is there are strategies that you can use to finance your vacation without necessarily having to work extra hours or work to just go pay the vacation directly. That is where investments come to place. That is where the necessity for making sure you can postpone a little bit of present enjoyment for future gains come to place. Because when you invest in assets that grow and generate value and revenue over time, what happens is that income coming from those assets without you working can be used to finance your vacation. You must realize that the ideal place where everybody I coach who are in my communities, and I'm sure in your community too, I know that for a fact. What we tell them, the overarching goal is to live in a lifestyle where your lifestyle is financed by passive income and not
Correct.
by active income. That
Correct.
is the ideal place. The
Yeah.
ideal place where your stocks, your bonds, your real estate portfolio is generating money without you working physically. And that money can be applied now to your vacation.
Correct.
Recently, we just came back from a vacation from Mexico, and that vacation cost us about 16 grand for our 3 girls and my wife and myself. We had a great time. We were there for about a week, right? Had a great time, beautiful resort, lived in some nice rooms, and all of that stuff. But we didn't only have a great time because we were on vacation. We had a great time because we knew deep in us that we are not spending money we have to work hard for. We are
You are
spending money.
not spending the seed.
We
You're
are not
spending
spending
the
the
fruit.
seed, Dr. Edimo. We are spending the fruit. We are
Yes.
spending money that has been produced for money that has been invested. So
Yeah.
once you understand that mindset, it will start from there. It will start from the ability to understand that the number one asset, the number one path to freedom for everyday people is the ability to invest your earnings and make sure the earnings are multiplied. Because financial freedom is about having choices, not
Yep.
necessarily quitting your job. No, it's not necessarily stopping to do what you're doing. No, it's not even necessarily the kind of things we see physically like homes and cars. No, it's just having choices. Freedom of choice in time, freedom of choice in location. I remember many years ago when I used to work as a nurse, when I traveled to Cameroon on a 3 weeks vacation, on my flight back to Cameroon to the US, immediately I get to Paris, I have to start calling the staffing coordinator.
Put me on the shift.
Put me on the schedule. Do you have some overtime for me? Okay, that was when I was in my 20s, getting to my, towards 30. Dr. Timo, there is no way I can do that at 49. I will die.
No.
No disrespect, but I cannot anymore, right? Here, what helped me is the fact that at some point along the line, I got to understand the power of investing. So
Absolutely.
I realized that seed that I get paid by my job, if I plant that seed, the next time I want to travel, I will not need to use that seed. I'll need to use the harvest from that seed to travel.
You know what?
And that is what has been helping me.
Yeah, you know what? I was just looking some stocks today, and I was like, wow. If you had $10,000 in the year 2000, and you bought Nvidia, again, just leave it there. $10,000. I did the analysis as of today before the market closed. That money could have given you. Give me a wild guess. How much do you think you could have had today?
10,000 in Nvidia
Yeah,
in the year 2000.
yeah.
You probably should be sitting today on at least $5 million.
You could have had. $2.8 million.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
$10,000.
I don't even know how many percent growth that is.
That is 26. That is 28,000%.
Yeah.
28,000%. Their stocks Just on the past 5 years, Nvidia, Micron, they are like 5,000%.
Yeah.
So that simply means if you could have put in $10,000, you could have made $50,000.
Correct.
You understand? But unfortunately, we sit in a world where people just want quick cash. They want to make the quickest $1,000. They want to make the quickest $50,000. They want to make the quickest $30,000, and they get themselves engaged into all these scams that are going around here. People are selling you different kinds of stuff to make that quick money, and you end up not getting that quick money. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just a follow up. I think you did answer that follow up, but one thing that I really want to get out of you today is with respect to why are people so skeptical about investing?
Mm-hmm.
I have talked to clients that even have a 401k that they have been contributing for over a decade. They don't even know the password. Why? Let me coin this question more. Why do people pay more attention to get a job and make money, but they pay less attention to the money that they have made to multiply that money? Because I see that a lot with my clients. There's just a lot. People make money, you don't even know how much comes in every month. You don't even know where your money goes. And I hear that question of, oh, I made $100,000 this year. I don't even know where that money went. That's a lie. You just haven't taken the time to look. What is going on, especially in our community? What is going on?
That's I think when it comes to the human inability to focus on multiplying money relative to working it to making money by applying their physical body and trading their time, there is a human explanation to that. There is also a psychological and wiring explanation to that. What do I mean by that? Most people, by the very nature of their upbringing and their wiring in life, they see money being earned as a direct exchange from some time being put and effort being applied for money to be made.
Mhm.
Especially for most of us immigrants from different parts of the world where other where it's a little bit very challenging to generate money otherwise, right? That is one. The second thing is that most people haven't made the psychological connection between the fact that the psychological connection between the fact that anytime you are counting only on the amount of hours you put into work, there is a single point of failure. And that single point of failure can be mitigated by putting in the returns you get from working into something that you can actually term your employee. So let me put it this way. Let me give you guys a psychological hack. Guys, let me give you guys a psychological hack. Every investment that I'm involved in, I look at it as my employee. The same way when I used to work for Oracle, I used to work for, Accenture. When I'm at work working, Larry Ellison is in his island drinking champagne with his 28-year-old girlfriend. And this is a 70-year-old man, right? While he's drinking champagne, he is eating, he is swimming in a special lake he has because he bought the whole island. I am working, and that work that I do for Oracle, selling a software, selling cloud credits, there is a percentage of that they pay me, and then there is a percentage that ends up in Larry Ellison's bank
Okay.
account.
Yep.
And now you multiply that by 100,000 workers that Oracle has. Then you multiply that by the profits he is going to make, right? So basically, every investment I have in Nvidia, in Microsoft, in any ETF, I look at them as my employees because now
Correct.
I am talking to Dr. Edimo on the line. We're having a great time educating people, sharing our experiences, learning too from you people watching us from your questions, strengthening ourselves, and then Walmart is open selling products, and while Walmart is selling and making profit, they are going to give me some of that profit.
Absolutely.
Now,
Fact.
if that mental wiring doesn't happen, Dr. Edimo, people will always be caught up with movement, because our natural human tendency, we usually defer more to movement, because movement indicates to us that there is more results. That's why generally sometimes you hear they say more movement, less progress. Because we go work physically and they pay us, we tend to subconsciously think that that is the most we can do. And if we have to do more, then we have to work longer hours. Then we have to work harder. Then we have to. But we don't think about the fact that it is better to have 1% of 1,000 people than to have 100%, 1,000% of your own effort.
That's true. I shared something on my Facebook just a couple hours ago. They interviewed this lady back in Boya. What this lady
Mhm.
does, since we have a lot of folks watching out from Africa as
No,
well.
it's very important. Yes.
Yeah, they interviewed this lady back in Cameroon. She used to work for a company that they were paying her about $50,000, 50,000 francs a month. She lived in Boya, but they took her to Gaoundere to do that work. She finally realized that, you know what, I can't, this is not sustainable. They increased her salary to like 90,000 to 100,000, but she said that was not sustainable. So she has been playing Jangi or Susu. So she took the proceeds that she had at that after working there for 2 years. She had about $100,000, 100,000 francs. She took that money and bought some firewood. She started with firewood. She bought firewood for like 80,000 francs. Started selling firewood from the proceeds. She started selling fruits. From that, she
Wow.
started doing granite sweet, coconut sweet. So she has a business of multiple things that she's doing. Then she transitioned from not just selling fruit to start making fresh fruit juice that she's selling. She made mention of the fact that just from the fact that she incorporated that entrepreneurial skills, she has been able to average about 200 and something $1,000 in France in
Mhm.
profit a month. So she was saying that nobody can even call her back to an office for 150,000. She's not gonna go. So why I'm sharing this story is I realize that a lot of people in Africa, whatever they do, whatever money they make, they just consume it. And the excuse is so small. You understand? If the money is so small, figure out something else to do. There must
Mhm.
be something else to do. What else can you tell, especially some of our listeners, that they think that there isn't any way out there, or what they are making is so small at this time?
You know, it is truly never about the amount of money. It is first of all about the mindset and the plan behind the money. Because at the end of the day, the way I look at life now, understanding some of the things I understand, money is only as much or as little as the things you want to do with it. Number one, and the ability to 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 put it into uses that helps to multiply that. I see Abs Ate said, yes, I watched the video. It was an impressive and down to earth analysis the lady gave. The power of the little consistent wins. That's a powerful one, Absate. And as we were talking about that video, Dr. Dimo, I read an article similar to that on, I think it was on a blogger called Next Dim. He posted something like that on Facebook. And in this case, this guy actually goes around with a truck and collects trash.
Wow.
And this guy said at the end of the month, this in Douala, at the end of the month, he averages between 300 to 350,000 francs. But listen to this. From that money, he has built a home. He has sent his kids to school, five of them. One of them is in university, right? And his plan is simple. He likes what he's doing, is generating him money. He says when he no longer has the energy to do that, he will move into driving a taxi. And they ask him, are you going to buy a taxi at that point, or how do you plan to do it? He says where he is right now, he already has money for the taxi.
Wow.
Okay. The reason I'm sharing this too is because when we're growing up in Bamenda, the Bamenda Municipal Stadium used to have a gentleman who took care of the stadium. He was the one who locked the stadium, opened the stadium. He was the main caretaker. And he took care of that stadium for as long as we grew up in Bamenda, for years. I was blessed and fortunate enough to have went to school in CPC with one of his sons, one of his eldest sons. And that gentleman told me that there were 7 of them as children that Pa had, working as the caretaker of the stadium. They call him Pa Kenji, for those who are from Bamenda, if they remember, right? But here's the interesting part, Dr. Edimo. Now, when I went to the University of SWA, that son of his who went to CPC, first of all, you start asking yourself, how was he able to generate the money to pay school fees for these children? But here is even what the culture of his upbringing taught him about life. When I went to university in Yaoundé, by the time I got to the university, this gentleman had already been in the university a few years ahead of me because he was ahead of me in class and age. Do you know that by the time I got to the university, this young man was known in Bonamusadi as the #1 person who does the tastiest puff puff and gâteaux?
Wow. Wow.
And from that business, he was able to sell puff puff, sell gâteau. He got about 15 taxis. He started buying Hiace buses to transport people. He bought a coaster bus. He sent his kids, his family members, they traveled different parts of the world. And he finally, after he had helped his family significantly, he traveled himself to the United States.
Wow.
And then when he got here, he didn't try to do something new. He didn't try to go be a nurse or something. He continued frying that same puff puff. Today in Maryland, on the weekends, he has a whole business. He owns a house, which is just his production center. On the weekends, all he does are cars coming to pick up orders.
Wow.
Why am I sharing this stuff? I am sharing this information because we have been conditioned to believe that the skill we might have relative to what we think is out there is not enough.
Oh.
You see, it's Maya Angelou who said, start with what you have, where you are, until you know better, then you do better.
Oh.
I see a lot of times, and this is very challenging because it applies a lot to us Africans. We underestimate the skills we have a lot.
Oh.
We do what? We underestimate the skills we have a lot. Sometimes you might have a skill. It might not be as productive in that environment in which you are. If you step a little out of that environment, it changes the dynamics. In January, I was back home in Cameroon on vacation, and I have a friend and schoolmate of mine in England, Kenny. He reached out to me and he said, bro, you know, I have my cousin. This young lady used to work for Elecam, was one of those business places. They used to pay her 200,000, but her contract is coming to an end and she's decided, but she's been watching your videos. She's so encouraged. She sells snails and things like that. And she would like to meet you. So I went and he wanted to order my book for her, that he wanted to gift her the book so that she can continue to develop herself. So I told him I will be going to Cameroon in January. He said, oh, he would really like if I can meet her. So I invited her. We met at White House Restaurant in Accra. And we sat down for about 15, 20 minutes and we started chatting. And she explained to me what she was doing. I asked her, why were you willing to leave a 200,000 francs a month job to go and be cooking food and selling? She said, you know, when she was doing her job, she had already, well, even before then, the way she grew up, her parents always forced them to sell something. So she became a little bit industrious. And while she was doing her job, she had a side business selling snails and a few other spices. And by the time she had the opportunity to either renew her contract or continue working, she did her math. And she realized that the amount of time she's putting on selling snails and the spices, the amount of money she was making at the end of the month, which was close to about 80, 90,000 francs, in addition to 200,000 francs coming from a secure job she goes to every day and spends 9 to 10 hours. If she dedicated a little bit more time to her business, what will happen? That's when she left now, started doing cooking food in Boya. It wasn't working too well. And then she decided, no, she was in Kumba. And then she decided, you know what? I will move to Douala and continue with the same thing. But this time I have a bigger market coming towards me. And by the time I was talking to her, I asked her, what is your revenue? She says on bad months, she sells for about 400 and 450,000. I said, what's your net profit? She said her net profit was sitting somewhere about 300.
Wow. Wow.
So what I am saying here, guys, whatever skill you have, don't underestimate that skill. Always ask yourself, how can I use that skill to provide value for somebody so that that person can exchange something for that value?
That's true. And that brings me to this. I'm studying something, and this is more of a pilot. I am examining businesses in Africa, very small businesses, not anything too complicated, anything that you can start with less than $100. I will analyze that and raise capital for you at no interest, but you have to pay back that money within 12 months. So, because one thing that I've realized, if you can't build with $50, $100, you won't be able to build with $1,000.
It's a fact.
So most people, they always think of $1,000 business, $2,000 business, $10,000 business, but they have never built with $100 business. And most businesses in Africa, especially some of these small traders, with $100, you can start that business. It's all with respect to how passionate are you and how desperate are you to succeed. We have people that they are not passionate. We have people that they see life so easy, they just want to hand out from somebody to continue giving them. And they have gotten to a point where they feel that some jobs aren't meant for them. I remember I've done everything under the belt while in Cameroon. I sold Gary, I sold sugarcane, I sold charcoal. Today I'm selling houses and I'm selling stocks and I'm teaching people. I'm the captain of wealth right now because I've done it all.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. The captain of world. And
Yeah,
Abs, I dare say something. Um, the small startup initiative is part of what MINAF. MINAF is a non-profit in Cameroon, and it's a non-profit in honor of our mother. Absate is my younger sister out of Douala, Cameroon. And
yeah,
so that non-profit provides some capital for people to start off with business. So it will be a good conversation to have, right? My
absolutely.
younger, yeah, exactly.
Oh
So,
yeah,
but that's a great
that is
initiative, Dr.
incredible to see
Odumo,
people
because
already. That's incredible to see people already doing
yes,
that. And again, it's not going to be 100% successful, but at the same time, even if we just change one or two people's life, as I said, one person is enough. And the thing is, you always have people that will come to such programs just to get the handout and don't do anything. We'll do our due diligence to the best of our abilities to make sure that
uh-huh,
we mitigate and minimize that. And you're not going to be coming to us when you have never started a business. You have to. And one thing that I've realized about business, if you have skin in the game, you do more work to that. If you have
absolutely.
handouts with respect to you building from, you don't care if you lose your capital. But if you have the
Absolutely.
capital to eat and you can report, have some accountability, because
Uh-huh,
accountability issue is the problem. Folks don't
uh-huh,
like to be held accountable. Where you give somebody $100 and say, you know what, start a business. I give you 2 months. You have to start reporting me how much you're making, how much you, whatever. If you don't do that, then our deal is null and void. And again, if somebody can be successful with $100 over time, you can help increase your capital to 200, to 300,
absolutely.
up to 500. I've seen this process. I went to a seminar, an American seminar. There is this guy from Kenya. He is doing this in Kenya. He runs a microfinance now worth over 200 million. And the maximum finance that they give is $500. And you must have built credit over time with them. You should be able to pay back $100 loan, or before you can get to 150 to 200. And people have purchased land, people have purchased cars, people have done enormous things just with some of these small loans. So it comes back to how willing, how desperate are you to starting something? It doesn't matter whether you have a job. In our day and time now, you can't live on one job. I don't care how much you
Right.
make. Whether you make a 500,000 francs or $10,000 a month. It doesn't matter. You have to live on multiple streams of income. One thing that folks have to understand is kindness is not weakness. Sometimes we come out here, we give, doesn't mean that we have a lot. So don't take us for granted. Generosity is not liability. Leading with love is our greatest grace. That is why we are here. We give the little that we can. We empower people. We don't do this for Facebook to pay us. When we say share or like, again, I got monetized. And the beginning of this year, I told my followers, every money I make from Facebook, I will
Give it back.
Right
Fine.
now, I don't make any money. Sometimes they give me $30, they give me $40 a month.
Don't even know how they calculate the damn thing.
I
So
don't even know how.
whatever comes. But
one thing that I've learned, right, in life is all about consistency.
yes.
And consistency is what that will build. And if you're not consistent, will break you. And that is why small businesses, 90% of small businesses fail, because folks give up before the time that is getting in. The clients that I had with Walmart today, if you could have told me 3 years ago that somebody could pay me $10,000 just to meet with me
Yeah,
4
you
or
won't
3
believe.
times a year, I would have told you that's a fat lie.
Correct.
That it's all about you thinking deep within yourself. What value add can you give? What small business can you do? And don't just go start a small business because you see A, B doing that. You have to figure out, is this business something that's going to generate me income? Do I have the passion to stay within this business, whether I succeed or I fail within my first 2 years? Because your first 2 years are going to be very, very stressful, especially with every business. As we round up, brother, I know.
Absolutely. And before we get there, listen here, guys. I think what you just said is so powerful because Dr. Edimo, a lot of times people think about the concept of compounding as a separate concept and as a concept that applies only to money, right? Because people think about it as compound interest. Now, almost everyone knows the principle of compounding. Everybody knows, small investments, small habits, small improvements repeated over time produce extraordinary outcomes.
Yep.
The question, which I believe always baffles you and baffles me too all the time, is why do so few people actually apply it consistently?
Yeah.
Why do you think there is such a gap between knowing the principle and living the principle? And when I started thinking through these things, it came up to me just because you've been talking here about small beginnings and humble beginnings and how powerful that is. Because the story of all the people who've built anything significant started from these small and humble beginnings.
True.
And one of the things I recognize that gets in the way of many people is number one, they start feeling bored of doing the same thing over and over and over. And then as I kept digging deeper, I realized that the centerpiece of any successful venture, of any successful relationship, of any successful thing you achieve in your life will ride on boredom.
That's true.
Ask a wife and a husband who've been married for 40 years. They will tell you 90% of it has been some boring days. We talk about the kids, sit in the living room, If there's nothing to talk about, somebody finds problems, so there will be a small argument. You fix it again and you continue, right?
Yeah.
You turn around, you look at trying to develop a habit that you want to achieve. It will start slowly, and as you keep working on it over time, you become an expert. I look at my younger sister, Abs Atel, who, by the way, congratulations. She just graduated with her master's degree from business school out of Switzerland.
That is
She started as a joke. One course, one textbook, 1 hour a day, and today she's graduated.
impressive.
I remember I was watching a video
Congratulations.
Awesome. I was watching a video by a documentary by about John Bon Jovi. You know that musician.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And he has a popular song. So in the documentary, they were interviewing some of his bandmates in the bus as they were driving to another city to perform. And the guys were complaining that they were sick and tired of that popular song. Because at a certain point in his career, he traveled, he did over 1,000 shows in less than 1 year. In a 1 year. A year has 354 days. So it means some days he averaged 3 shows a day. You understand? Wow. And so they asked the band guys, they said they were so bored about that song. It's getting to them because they will go to CTA, they set up their bands, do everything, they play that song. They pack their bands, go to the next city, they play. And at a certain point, it gets to them because they're doing the same thing over and over. But at every point in time, their band leader will always remind them, it is not about you, you are performing. The people who are listening to you, maybe that's the first time they just listen to that song being performed on stage by the musician himself. That is how life is. I remember there's this other guy who is a comedian. What's his name? This black guy, he smokes on his sets. He graduated from the university in Maryland. Oh, I forget. He lives in Ohio. He's a very strange guy, but he's very popular, very successful, and he's done some mighty things in the comedy space. And one time I was watching a documentary, a podcast he did, and they asked him, and he said, listen, because he's one of the people who had the first Netflix comedy special.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him, and the guy said, he told the podcast, I said, let me tell you something. When I have a new joke that I come up with, I will first of all start doing it in small stages. Maybe in the living room to my family. I will go to the nearby comedy club. I will keep doing that. By the time now I get to doing it on a big stage where we have 1,000, 2,000 guests, I have already done that comedy repetition like 500 times. By the time I get to have a Netflix special for that comedy show, know that I've already done it like 1,000 times.
Yep.
So by the time I am performing it, I'm no longer even doing it consciously. It is second nature to me. Yep. That is how everything is. Ask anybody who have built a business. They have to become the business.
Oh, yeah.
It takes 5 to 7 years for your business to become profitable. So guys, don't get carried away. The average millionaire is 59 years old. Don't let nobody fool you. The average entrepreneur, before they make their first million, it is in their 30s, not in their 20s. So the few guys who, like Mark Zuckerberg, started Facebook at 20 whatever and made some billions, that is not the normal. That is the extremely abnormal. The average everyday people is patient.
Looking at Fidelity. Fidelity put out some stats yesterday.
Oh, they did that. They do that every year, yes.
Yeah. You know, in America, average 40 to 45. All they have saved is $140,000.
Yes.
So if you're 45 years old, you're not even part of that average living in the United States, you're behind. You're very, very behind. And most folks, they don't even understand what they anticipate to live or to live on at the later part of their lives. And that is some of the things that we guide people in. That gap, understanding your gap. Okay, you want to live on $100,000 a year at 60. But guess what? You have just $30,000 saved in your savings account at this point that we sit. That is some scary stuff.
It
And
is.
now some kids are going out there. Did you see the kid with this NBA commentator? I'm sure that was more of a that the kid said the dad is not going to live with him. He doesn't want that dad at home and stuff. Have you
Oh
seen?
yeah, Stephen A. Smith, the journalist. Yes,
There you go.
his daughter.
So one thing before we end this episode, right? I want you to talk to parents, and to some of these parents, they're already seeing it now. Some have early kids, and gone are those days that we took care of our parents. But there is little probability that our kids gonna take care of us, especially if we don't start positioning those kids to understand what that responsibility or them seeing how you are taking care of your own parents. Don't expect your kid to understand that they have to take care of you when you never took care of yours. They didn't see that, and you don't have that conversation with them. Before we go to our closing, what
Closing,
do you
yeah.
have to say about that?
Dr. Dimo, I think that this is just an intro to another podcast. So we have two separate podcasts now we have to do on these two topics. The first one, the first one is about what, and now we are talking. But in all fairness and in all seriousness, I think the times have evolved to the point where parents have to be very careful. And the reason I say that is because there has been certainly a change in generation. But most importantly, there've also been a change, an attempted change in roles. When we were growing up, I'll start sequentially. When we were growing up, the structure in a home never
And
made.
just that we know we have just about 2 more minutes to run.
Okay, sure, that's good. When we're growing up, the structure in a home never made the child the most important thing in the house.
True.
Okay.
True.
I'm not minimizing the joy of children, but we are living in a modern time today, especially the subconscious training in the Western world. Is that the most important thing? Everything is about the children. Number one. Number two, you see situations where children are still young, they are 10, they are 11, or whatever age, and almost every decision, their opinion has to be asked. Do you want to eat this or this?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to go here or go here? Do you want to do your bed now or you want to make your bed later? Do you want to? All those things, what does that do to the child? It subconsciously tells the children that they are the center of attention and they are the most important thing. So now, fast forward 25 years from now, you expect that child to worry about you?
Not at all.
Why? They don't have no incentive to, because they were never trained to. When you and me were growing up, it was clear. There were certain plates, there were certain dishes that, it's mommy's dish, it's daddy's dish, right? You know that you have to do mommy's laundry. In the West, we do our laundries. Those things, let me tell you, Dr. Edimo, we are going to do another podcast on these things. But this is where I believe a lot of immigrants are missing the point.
Yes.
A lot of those things you will see adult immigrants today saying it's like you are punishing the child. Those are the things that taught us discipline. Those are the things that taught us respect. Those are the reasons why we honored our parents. I watched that interview you're talking about. I'm sure part of it might be planned, but trust me, even if it's planned, boy, I'm sure that was a rude reawakening for that man.
Oh, yeah.
And every parent, especially parents living in the West, because the Western culture also strips the parents of their right and authority to discipline their children.
Correct.
So it makes it in such a way that parents have very little latitude on how to give children ultimatums and implement consequences for those ultimatums.
Oh, yeah.
There's a certain age in a child's life. Let me be honest with everybody. I know I am speaking this in public, on a public forum, and it's going to be on a forum. I don't want anybody to consider this child abuse or anything. But when I was raising my daughters when they were young, from time to time, I would tap their butt a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that again. Learn. I'm not going to have a conversation with them. I'm not having a conversation with a 5-year-old. There are things we can talk about. There are things we cannot talk about. So, and we are seeing the consequences, Dr. Edimo.
No.
The consequences are dire.
I still
what that little girl was talking to her father, a lot of children are.
I give them verbal and physical discipline.
Yes.
And I've told them we're living in a West where you have a choice. If you do something bad and I discipline you and you think that it's I am going above my, call the cops and let them take you and never come back. I am
Are you
here.
going to live in a shelter or somewhere?
Absolutely. You know,
Be-
we grow up being who we are today is because of the discipline that we had. Some of
yes.
us, we used to think that that discipline was bad, but now that we are older, we have gotten to understand that we needed that discipline. We'll talk about that. Raising kids in America. I have that here as one of our topics. And I'm going to
Correct.
give you few examples that
Yes.
I did stupid things growing up, and my mom gave me as an example that I
Yes.
never ever thought of doing those things again.
Again, most
So
of us.
this is something for another episode, and we're gonna pay more attention to that because again, we talk about money here. People buy houses, build houses, all these things for these kids when the kids don't even care about it.
They don't even respect you first. They don't even.
Anyway,
Mhm.
let's round up here. So what stocks and ETFs are you looking at?
You know, there's this one ETF I'm looking at for this coming week. It's called DRAM. It's relatively new.
Oh,
I think it started in July or so. I did a
yes,
post on my community on that.
yeah.
No, not DRAM. I did a post on IPO, which is also an AI ETF. But I'm looking at DRAM and AIPO, which is IPO. I'm already starting to accumulate IPO slowly because these are ETFs that handle some aspects of the AI revolution that is important to be positioned for.
Okay.
And the DRAM ETF is an ETF that focuses on companies that deal with memory.
Oh
You
yeah,
talked
yeah. The
about
memory
Micron
chip.
and all those
I've
guys.
DRAM. I've had DRAM. It went up pretty well. It came.
Correct.
It came down a
Took a
little
hit.
bit. Yep.
Yeah, it's a
I've had.
long-term hold. So
Yeah,
yes,
it's a
and then
long.
I'm
It's
looking
a
at
long.
AIPO too. AIPO is the power ETF for AI revolution. So AIPO contains all the different companies that are positioned and working on the power grid, the infrastructure grid, electricity, construction of data centers, and all that stuff. So those are the two ETFs I'm looking at. I'm
Okay.
also monitoring SpaceX. My goal is to start accumulating some towards the end of the year. I believe it's still going to drop significantly to about 70, $80. That's my target price point to get in. So I'm
Okay.
keeping my fingers crossed.
So I as of next week I'll start buying one SpaceX every 2 weeks. I don't care where it's gonna be because it's a long term hold. It's
Oh,
like
yes, absolutely.
yeah, it's like today Tesla reported their earnings. They beat on their earnings, but their guidance weren't good. Their stock went down
I
by
opened my
30%.
portfolio before we got online. I closed it immediately. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. But I knew that, but
Yeah.
the good thing with Tesla is that he always has genius, right?
Oh
He will
yeah.
turn around in
So
the next
some
two
of these
years. He's
things,
going to
you
package
see why
SpaceX.
we say invest $10,000 and in 20 years you have 1 million or 500,000. You will
Yes,
go through these ups and downs. You
it's
don't
standard.
worry about them. As long as Elon Musk remain at the head of Tesla and SpaceX, there will always be something new coming. And the stock market already believes in Elon. So if you
Yeah.
don't believe in Elon, you're on your own. Anyway, any announcements?
Um, from my end, no, it was just a great plumping praise on my brother. But I believe, and guys, I think you have something coming up, Dr. Edimo. Do
Yeah,
you?
I have something coming
Okay,
up
you're going to be talking. Okay, wonderful.
on
Yes.
July the 30th. We are having how to build $1 million portfolio. So we this is a class that I usually charge $599. I'm giving it
Mhm.
for $49. I'm giving it no matter how much you're making, and those of you even in Africa, right? There are now platforms in Africa that you can start investing. So
That's
so
right.
don't tell me that you cannot invest, you don't have money. If you can pay, that's why I put this thing at $49. Because
Uh-huh.
nobody should be living in Africa. I don't care how much you're making. If you can't really pay something that you really need for $49, then you forget it. You're gonna be broke for a very, very long time. So this class is not for me to make money out of it, but it's for me to just give back. and give folks the tools. So those that own businesses, I'm going to be talking about some tax strategies on those that own businesses, those that are starting with zero. It doesn't matter whether you just moved to the United States or you live in Europe, you're making just basic minimum wage, you can start building something for yourself. The best is even the younger folks, those that are in their 20s. If you come to this class and just take 10, 15, 20% of what we're going to teach you, it's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. Yeah. Any last words from you, brother?
Hey, man, always a great plumping pleasure, certainly just hanging out. And for everybody who stayed with us watching through the program, drop us your questions. We hope you found something valuable in this. Go ahead, share with your friends, with your loved ones, right? Check us out. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. And if you're meeting me for the first time, which I hope it's not, right? But just keep learning. You have to understand, like with everything, knowledge compounds. And at a certain point, you just realize the changes that have been happening in your life. And that is going to be thanks certainly to the different things. And again, I've been getting a lot of inquiry. People want to have a one-on-one conversation with me. I generally do that. So if you look on my YouTube channel, you check my Facebook page, you are going to see a link underneath this video, and you can click on that link and book a one-on-one time with me. That way I can help really get down into your specific situation. I can give you some ideas, some guidance. I will share my own experiences with you that can unlock your portfolio, teach you how to get started if you're new or if you're already going, but just help you become more confident and understand some of the decisions you're making. Because it's a lot of the people who watch us are people after the age of 35, right? And let me tell you guys, from the age of 35, 40, you don't have too much time to be making bullshit mistakes. I
Not at
know
all.
because I've made a lot of painful mistakes. I've foreclosed on homes. I've filed for bankruptcy. I've made some money, lost it all, started from the ground up. So I know how painful it takes to build yourself out of those holes. If I can help you, if Dr. Edimo can help you understand how not to fall in some of those pit holes, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. Because this is how I think about it, Dr. Edimo. For example, the seminar you're going to be doing, this is how I think about it. And I want everybody to understand this thinking. You're paying whatever it is you're charging. That is basically free. $49 is free. That is not even up to a cost of a bottle of scotch. But for that, you are getting knowledge. You are getting information that you can use for the rest of your life.
Sure.
When you really think about the compounding reward of that information, you realize that by the end of your life, you would have probably really paid. Actually, you owe Dr. Edimo for that.
A lot of money, a lot.
Right? So, guys, I'm just saying this because one of the things we immigrants struggle a lot with is we don't understand how to evaluate things in life. And I don't say this in any derogatory or disrespectful way. I am saying it because it took me a while to get my mindset around to understand how these things work in life. I'll give you a very simple example, Dr. Dumo. I mean, today I had a few suits packed in my daughter's room. And she came to me and said, Daddy, you know what? You need to take out your suits. I need my space in my closet. So I said, hey, I hadn't even used those for how many years now? Probably 3 years, right? And so if you think about it from that perspective, right? Let's say I wanted to pay this class for you, which I'm going to do for sure. But let's say I was one of those who didn't understand how these things work and I'm hesitating, right?
Yeah.
Look at what is sitting there. And I can tell you that from the time I bought those suits till now, where I don't use them as much, I probably have worn each of them maybe 3 times.
Yes.
Right? Or let's even say 5 times. So if each of the suits costs $500 and I've worn it 5 times, it means my pay-use cost of that suit is $100.
Yeah.
Which is still significant, and that pay-use cost is for something that is a liability because it's not producing value for me. I don't know if I made sense.
Oh, absolutely.
But now I'm talking about paying $49 into something that will give me knowledge, will give me information, will open me to other people. Because when you attend seminars like that, you meet other people on that journey and you join communities now where you start getting even expanded ideas.
Yes.
That is what this really is all about.
You know who we've just touched? Your sister, Abshate. She is going fully on her fabric business now.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Awesome. Awesome.
Go for it,
That's
sister.
the power of your testimony, Dr. Edimo.
Yeah, go for it.
That's
Go
wonderful.
for it. It's not going to be an easy journey, but I just want to tell you, stay consistent, learn from the people that are already doing this business and scale. There should be no reason for you to go reinvent the wheel or trying to figure things all by yourself. Go research those that are doing this business, align yourself with those people that are successful in this business, and I bet you will for sure succeed.
And Dr.
Anyway,
Edimo,
yeah.
before we call it a day, I want to give a shout out to, I see my dear friend and sister out of Lenexa in Kansas City, Stella, Mami London. And that's a beautiful story for another day. But just to give a good thing, we're talking about this, right? And let me just take 2 minutes here. Stella is a young sister I know, and she's married to a very good friend of mine, Nebangwa.
Mm-hmm.
Stella is a registered nurse by training in the US. Nebangwa is a distribution guy. He worked for brasseries in Cameroon, the top breweries in Cameroon, Guinness, brasseries, came to the US and started working for the #1 Coca-Cola distributor in the Midwest. I want you to hear this story. It's such a beautiful story. I'm going to be having them on the podcast one of these weeks, and we're going to have this conversation. And this guy is working for Coca-Cola, and at a certain point, he has started thinking about it, but the pressure started rising. He knew that he had to do better. And he told me that one day they finished from a meeting, and the owner of the distribution company, who is one of the richest black men in America, but because he's not in technology, nobody knows him.
Mm-hmm.
He started having a chat with the guy, and the guy said, "What are your plans? What are your goals?" He was first of all surprised because the owner is asking him about his bigger goals, which might include goals out of his company.
Yes.
And he hesitated, and the guy said, "No, feel free. Don't worry. You don't have to work for me forever. In fact, if you work for me for more than 5 years, then there's something wrong because you're a young man. You're in America. You have to go build your own thing." So he decided he was going to open a restaurant business. He went ahead and secured a lease to open a store at the airport in Kansas City. And a few weeks before they started, somebody gave him an idea to instead, they had a community center in Lenexa, like a business building. The city had built like a 6-story building where they have shops and different things. And on one of the floors, they made it a food court. So they needed different foods from different cultures to represent the diversity of their city. And so they asked them, "But we're looking for somebody to do that. Can you help?" And that's how Stella and Nebangwa started selling rice, puff, and beans in Kansas. And today, this is barely 4 or 5 years ago. Today, they have 2 restaurants in Kansas. They still have the same restaurant at that mall, but this time they have brought in fufu. They sell egusi soup. They sell briskets, spiced as African food, and that is the highest selling of all their different dishes.
That is incredible story. What a story, man. What a story.
So Stella is on the line. Shout out to you. Incredible, right?
Incredible. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to Irene Habila. Thank you for your comments. You're staying late. I know you're joining us from Nigeria. There are a lot of folks that have been here today. Thank you again, you guys, everyone. Share this video. It's going to be here for a month. Share this video. Let folks get to listen to it. If you can touch one other person, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
You know? But again, thank you guys all for joining us. Congratulations to your sister that just graduated with her master's, Sate, and thank you to everyone again. Until next time, brother, we'll see you at the top.